Hi, King Lear. Wow. What is there to talk about with King Lear? How about nothing? Nothing will come from nothing, is what King Lear says to Cordelia in Act 1, Scene 1. Nothing will come from nothing. This is from Aristotle. Not a believer in the Big Bang Theory, I'm afraid. The idea that we have to have something else. Nothing will come from nothing. If you pay attention in the reading of the text of Lear, you'll be surprised how often the word nothing is used. And in fact, there's a lot of discussion, and including in this class, as to whether this play tends towards nihilism, the belief in nothing, that nothing matters. There's no ultimate good or evil. There is no reward or punishment that is doled out for the good and punishment for the bad. But a universe in which nothing really makes any sense. There's no order. There's no purpose. We just muddle through. Can be a little depressing that way, right? And so one of the challenges of Lear is to think about that. After all, Aristotle also talked about tragedy, and we talked about Aristotle's definition of tragedy in the tragedy video. That ultimately there was a sense of pity and catharsis, right? Pity and fear leading to catharsis. That is to say, we, the audience, the reader, we get something from this. There is a relief that is felt. And in many arguments about tragedy, there is this notion that there is a kind of dignity found for the hero, even in death, especially in death. Yet that dignity doesn't seem to happen in King Lear. There's death, lots of death. The bad people die, but so do the good. There's no triumphant sense of revenge, which carries over the purpose, like in Hamlet. Right? That final action that has been long waited for. No, it's not here in King Lear. Nothing will come from nothing. And so one of the reasons this play works is it avoids or resists simple conclusions, simple explanations. If you read the Greenblatt preface, you know that in Shakespeare's time, the audience was already somewhat familiar with the story of King Lear, considered it in sense history, actually, not the way we understand history now, of course. But they assumed it was history, and there was a different ending, a happy ending for Cordelia and Lear. Shakespeare turns that on its head. He resists that happy ending. It was shocking to the audience, and shocking to many ever since, including for a time a rewrite which gave King Lear the appropriate happy ending. Thank goodness we don't do that anymore, right? But this is interesting to me, right? There are a lot of angles, a lot of issues with Lear. You'll get to write about them in the discussions or in your essay. But there's this general feeling of unsettledness. The world isn't right. which presupposes, obviously, a notion of what is right. Another word might be natural. What is natural? It is natural that is assaulted here too. The older daughters, Goneril and Regan, do not behave as daughters should, especially towards a father/king who has just given away his kingdom. They do not act in a quote-unquote natural way, the expected way. Right? One of the things that really happens in this play is the violation of natural order, whether we're talking about kings and kingdoms, fathers and families, society as a whole. Nature itself, of course, in Act 3, is a great storm, reflecting, of course, the storm going on inside Lear. But everything is very unsettled. One of the things that happens in Shakespeare's play is there's a lot of references to the natural world. There are, at least according to the account by critic Lionel Trilling, 133 specific references to animals, 64 different types of animals, in fact. Why? Is there a sense of returning to an animalistic way of being, right? That we lose our social covers, our rules, our mores, our standards. We're reduced to an animal-like world, which is amoral. We won't go down the Darwin road. But there is clearly something going on there. The natural world, the natural kingdom. Gloucester remarks upon the stars. He sees many what we would call astrological or superstitious signs that the world is unsettled. This raises another issue. Issues of fate and free will. Are we fated to do something? Right? One thinks of Oedipus, the story from Sophocles. Oedipus Rex, who kills his father, marries his mother, in spite of every effort that he made to not let that happen. Fate. His bastard son, Edmund, laughs behind his back at this notion of fate. He believes in free will. You are what you make of yourself. And Edmund, of course, tries to make of himself to be the next Gloucester, in spite of the fact that, as an illegitimate child, he is not really supposed to ascend to that level. But he works it. He is, of course, brought down. The wheel, right? The wheel of fate turns. Well, there's a tension there between fate and free will. One might argue that ultimately everything is set right, but set right at a humongous cost. And what right is seems very unsettling to the two survivors, Albany and Edgar. I dismiss Kent because, of course, he is soon to depart. The plot double, Lear and his daughters, Gloucester and his sons. We've seen doubles in other Shakespeare plays, kind of parallel lines. It's a favorite technique of his, but this is probably the most involved, right? And in both cases, there is the unnatural idea, right? These fathers trust the wrong child or children. They do not follow their hearts. Or, in Lear's case, maybe he follows too closely. Part of the reason Gloucester is so, shall we say, susceptible to the machinations of Edmund is because what he has seen happen with Lear and the daughters there. One of the things I also find very striking is the thin veneer that holds everything together. How quickly it can all be torn apart, right? You're the king, then you're not the king. But you expect to be respected, and all of a sudden, you're not respected. You have your knights taken away from you. You've given away all that you have in great generosity, maybe foolishly. No, not maybe foolishly, definitely foolishly. But you've given away all that you have, and you expect just a little gratitude in return. Instead, you're treated like a pariah. One of my favorite lines from this play, reason not the need. When the daughters take away the knights who are in attendance to the king, to Lear, they argue, you don't need to have these knights. We have tons of servants. We'll take care of you. You're good. And he argues, reason not the need. What a human needs is more than just simply food, shelter, and medical care. Right? You need more than that to be a person. You need more than that to be a human. And they strip him of what he needs. Reason not the need. It happens so fast. And it happens so easily. This is what I mean by the thin veneer of power. We think a democracy is held together for 200 plus years. And then somebody says, I'm not going to accept the vote. I'm going to challenge every ballot because I think I won, because I think I'm the winner. There's no way I could be the loser. And all of a sudden, that normal process that has happened however many times over 200 plus years is threatened. In Lear, these kind of truth claims are just vapors. Gone. And what holds us together is threatened very, very deeply and very, very quickly. Notions of dignity, honor, allegiance, loyalty, law, decency, all these notions that hold not only families but countries together are threatened, questioned, sometimes even mocked. There's a way to do things, isn't there? And all of a sudden, people don't go along with that. When Kent winds up in the stocks, I know it's a scene of some comedy, but really it is a show of power and a change of standards that says, no, we're not doing things the old way. We're doing things my way. Right? So when Cornwall does that, he's basically saying, I'm not playing that old game anymore. I'm playing my game. Stop me if you can. And it goes, and it goes, and it goes. The assumptions of the past, the assumptions of order are all challenged. So what do we have at the end? Do we walk away feeling that pity and fear, but that sense of catharsis that it's all going to be better because of this? I think Lear, more than any other play I know, works against saying those things. Good reading.